Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. On this episode, we've got lots of sizzling hot information this week. Avery updates us on the sales team's experience learning more about the advantages of our PowerCore Enlist Corn. Dylan shows us insects and diseases he's been finding in fields lately. We talk about our Merschman Corn varieties and introduce our 2024 product guide.
Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have Lynn and Avery and Turk and Dylan, and we are out in the Merschman Seeds corn plot. Today we're sitting in front of the 2408C. We had a nice, awesome sales meeting this past week where we had our area sales managers get trained up on PowerCore Enlist, and that's where I think we're going to start this episode out today. Avery, what did we learn from the plot day?
Yeah. Well, we had a good Monday meeting up there in Crawfordsville. Thank you to Iowa State for putting it on for us and having an amazing plot up there. It allow us to see our corn in a different environment and rotation up there as well. You know, what we learned up there with the PowerCore trait is it's a very diverse system. From the insect protection clear down to the herbicide program it offers a farmer. It's a PowerCore Enlist, so I mean now farmers with Merschman seeds, you can spray Enlist in your soybeans and in your corn. I mean you don't have to worry about switching out the tank mixes because the PowerCore traits there. I kind of want to hit on probably the herbicide programs first because that's probably the most exciting thing. With the PowerCore Enlist corn, you have Enlist 2,4-D tolerance,
Yep.
And then you got your glyphosate.
Yep.
And you got your glufosinate.
Yep.
But what's really, really exciting is that you have a FOPS tolerance, which I mean is a grass killer there. So you can come in and spray a Sure 2, would be your grass killer that's tolerant to the corn, and control your giant foxtails and anything like that that you see within your corn field.
Yep, so that's going to play a role as we move further south where we have some glyphosate resistant grasses. I've already had customers call in about that and talk to us that, you know, Roundup's not killing some of my grass. This product's going to be a great option for them to go out and spray that Assure 2 at the full labeled rate. And that's kind of what the Enlist field specialist Scott Youngman was talking to us about. You know, when you're using that product, that grass killer in conjunction with 2,4-D, if you have a group 4 herbicide in that mix, you're really wanting to use the full labeled rate of that Assure 2 to get the good kill on grass. If you take it out, you can start off at the starting rate, but to go after those resistant grasses, it's definitely a good option.
What do we do, Avery, if we've got volunteer corn in our beans the next year?
Yeah, so I mean, that's the big question is like volunteer corn and soybeans, like we usually go out there with your clethodim and your dims and control, you know, all the corn out there. And then you add a grass kill or grass tolerant herbicide in there with the corn. People are like, oh, well, how am I going to control this? Well, it's only only tolerant to FOPS, but it is able to be controlled by your Select Max or any of your dim herbicides out there. So, yeah.
So what else we got there with this product?
I mean, I also want to talk is, you know, we're stacking a lot of herbicide programs there, but I mean, one of his quotes that I really liked is, dead weeds don't produce seed, and starting clean. And so, you know, people are maybe more economical focused and trying to keep the price low. But I mean, like he said, even if you're coming out there with a really good pre-program, I still, even though you're stacking 4 herbicide traits in there, we do still recommend start clean. So you go in there with a good pre-program, maybe add some atrazine in there, and then you follow up with your post program, and you can do the 3-way tank mix. You can do the Enlist, glyphosate, glufosinate, or you can pull back one of the two. And definitely last year you would have probably pulled back the Liberty, do the price, but luckily here in 2023 we've seen that Liberty price come down, so it's more, you know, so the PowerCore trait is more of a economical friendly program out there for the herbicide.
One of the herbicide programs that he was talking about that I thought was really interesting was the fact that, you know, if you have a weedy field, you can go out there with, you know, 3 ounces of mesotrione, yep, atrazine plus 2,4-D. And then if you have, I mean, if broadleaves or something that you're going to go after, that's going to be a pretty economical post program. And we know that mesotrione or Callisto is pretty decent on broadleaves, but you take that bleacher and you throw a growth regulator in there, I don't think you're going to have any broadleaves out there. I mean, that's going to be one of the biggest hammers you can hit broadleaves with out in the field. So it's definitely gives farmers an additional option or something to think about when you're posting your corn.
Exactly. And I mean, then I mean, the diverse package that PowerCore provides farmers, it doesn't just start or stop there with the herbicide traits. I truly believe the above ground insect protection is very, very impressive. As you can see here, we got a nice little handout that they gave us. And I'm going to get to the page here so I don't quote myself wrong. Oh, the 3 traits here in the PowerCore are the Cry2A B2, as well as the Cry2 1A 105, and then it adds that the Herc genes, right? Herc genes, which is the Cry 1F. So it gives you 3 protections above ground. You know, we don't have any below ground, but maybe someday in the future we'll see that. But you know, as of right now, I think the insect protection trait that the PowerCore offers is a very premium product out there. You guys have anything to add on there?
Yeah, it's basically what those Cry genes for what you're talking about is. You're running a double pro plus Herc is the common language for what that is.
So yeah, if you look here on this page, you got protection against black cutworms. You have a better protection than the VT double pro corn. You get an extra protection there. Then you have the same protection on corn earworm. You got an extra protection on the European corn borer, as well as the fall armyworm and southwestern corn borer as well. So I mean, it's always just one notch, probably have a notch advantage above that VT double pro there.
Multiple modes of action. I mean, that's what we're talking about here to control some of these insects that are becoming resistant.
Exactly. Anything we can do to get a product out there that is going to take away some stress from some farmers, because anytime that we can put something into a product like that helps farmers not have to worry about extra insecticide application at the V6 time frame, anything we can do to help alleviate some stress when farmers are really busy is what we're really after there. So speaking of stress, you've been out scouting fields. What are you seeing out in the field right now, Dylan?
Oh yeah, I guess we'll start on the kind of the soybean side. I would definitely say the soybeans are moving right along. Make sure we're getting the fungicide applied if it's not already too late. They're moving a lot quicker than I think kind of farmers are realizing.
What stage are you seeing?
A lot of R3s, they're even getting close to R4 here coming up. So even some of the soybeans are already there. So. And we'll kind of move on to the corn side. We're definitely seeing the leaves, everything on corn doesn't seem as kind of merry and bright this week with all the heat that we've been seeing. I guess when we've been out scouting, tar spot is definitely moving up the plant. It's starting to get heavier in some spots. I know guys keep going around and around in circles on tar spot, but it's definitely becoming a lot heavier. And
it's not just in the fields that we had irrigation with at the beginning. It's more widespread, isn't it?
Yeah, it's everywhere. When we first kind of started seeing it in irrigated, now we're seeing it even in the drier areas. And then I would start to watch out for southern corn rust. If we start getting the southern winds headed this direction around the R5, be watching for it. Maybe another application of fungicide. And then
the high humidity we've had, kind of the culprit here, isn't it, Ben?
I would have to agree. And the high humidity brings on the heavy dews that, I mean, every morning when you're walking to your truck.
17 days in a row we had measurable moisture on the feed, I guess you would say, for lack of better terms, as we look out in the morning, whether that would be from the humidity or some form of precipitation that came from the overnight. But locally here in southeast Iowa, we had 17 days in a row, and that just ended yesterday. And then today we didn't have anything. But from that point, for basically the 2-week window before that, we've had basically ideal environments for these pathogens to set in and take a look. And the problem with that is that for the early guys, or the early planted early varieties, they'd already put their fungicide application on. So we've got that window, but now we're setting ourselves up to come back in again here, probably 10 days away from seeing that efficacy wean off, and we're going to have to go back and start looking again to make sure that we're not catching a second round. As Dylan mentioned, with the diseases progressing through the county or through the countryside, that we don't give up on this corn plant. It seems to be, we get to tassel, and then we do our fungicide applications, and then we just kind of stop looking. Where Dylan mentioned the R5 time frame, like we've really got to protect our yield to R5 and probably just a little bit beyond as well. So as we're looking for a second fungicide application, we want to make sure that we get through our first applications window and then also apply the second one where we're having some coverage that gets us to black layer and finishing us out.
Right. So a lot of fungicide application basically in our entire sales footprint would have started on the very, very earliest would have been like July 4th, 5th, 6th.
Yep.
So if you're using one of those 3 mode of action products or the high-end fungicide products, you get 30 days of protection. So I'm looking for the first 10 days, the first 5 days of August. That is when we're gonna have to make a hard decision on if we're gonna be spending more money on the crop or not. I think that there's a lot of crop out there to go get.
Yep.
So I think in a lot of cases, you're gonna see guys pull the trigger on potentially a second round of fungicide.
And that's one where, you have to know your fields, you have to know the economic potential for those fields, you have to make that decision. And it goes back to just, what other product you want to do. Maybe you don't necessarily have to go back in with an expensive one at that later time frame. If you hypothetically wanted to go to a cheaper route, you have to weigh all those options to look at what your potential looks like. But the biggest point is just don't give up on this corn crop too early, because we've been progressing very quickly. We are moving through the stages very quickly, but at the same time, diseases can also progress very quickly as we're having all these, I guess, the perfect storm lineup for this.
Right. You had some things flying out in a cornfield that haven't necessarily been out there in full force. What else are you seeing out in the cornfields?
Yeah, so I've been scouting out this week, and I've seen a lot of western corn rootworm beetles, and even some northern this morning when I was out. And even just walking through, they're flying on you, they're landing on you. So that's a pretty good sign that they're pretty heavy. And kind of the threshold we go by is 2 beetles a day that your trap has been out there. And that's kind of your threshold. So anything above that, you need to be paying attention.
So where are we on that?
We're way over in this particular field that I looked at this morning. And so there needs to be something, management decisions needs to be going on.
Yep. So when I think about that, your trap that you had 22 beetles in it in a 7-day period, where we might be a little bit past the time, but a bug bomb event, so going out and spraying a pyrethroid on that field is going to be a good decision if you want to lower the adults if you know you're going back into corn that following year. I'm definitely thinking about that. I'm thinking about making sure you have the best trait package for rootworm, whether that be a Smart Stacks Pro or a Duracade or a Chrome. Paired with a insecticide on the planter. If it's really, really bad, there's some data out there that says that dry insecticide, like your old Aztecs, have a little bit better efficacy than the liquids, but it all depends on what your planter's set up with and how many acres you have and what it makes sense to do in that. But it's definitely one of those things that the dry weather that we have had has brung on more insects than what we're used to seeing.
Ben, we're going back to what we used to do in the old days, where we went out and sprayed at brown silk to control that was our rootworm beetle control before we had traits. And so kind of going back to the old days, going back to my day.
Well, and I think that part of that is the traits. We're getting resistance, and what you're talking about there is just like what we were talking about with the PowerCore. It's the multiple modes of action, the multiple hits that you're trying to achieve. You're trying to cover your bases. It's a program approach. It's not one single product approach, and that's what you have to do when we get into these extreme situations. And we'll probably have pictures for next week on Cup of Joe. You didn't have time to go out and dig roots, but nope. If you're having that many adults, you probably have some pretty good root feeding going on in that field as well. In a dry year, that root feeding definitely is impacting yield for sure.
And now's the time to do that, isn't it?
Now is the time to be doing it. So what happened in the markets this week, Turk?
Well, it's one of those deals where the trade was trading what the forecasts were saying and what the Black Sea was doing, and Putin decided to quit bombing this week, and rains actually materialized a little bit more than what the trade thought, and the heat was a little bit lower than the trade thought, and we've been kind of working backwards all week, and so we're getting toward the bottom end of the trading range that we've been in here recently, and you know, it kind of still goes against, if you want to be a speculator and you want to bet on what Putin's going to do tomorrow, that would be where you would want to be in the market. But my advice is this is too volatile right now to get in the market to take a position, but it's not too late to take some profit if you have profitable levels to sustain your farming operation.
Yeah. We saw some big wheat numbers jump beginning of the week, and we've lost everything and then some from what we gained on Monday's run.
Yep.
So I was watching that awfully closely. I got some wheat that I need to sell. So
Did you get it sold, Ben?
and didn't get it
Typical
sold.
farmer waited for more.
I was looking for another 50 cents, but I didn't get it.
Yep, wanted more.
So while we're sitting here in front of the plot, we'd be remiss not to talk about this 2408C. So what I really like about this product is it's going to be a phenomenal product for anybody that needs a 108-day or an early option for where we're sitting right now. This product very, very, very comfortably will go down to the Interstate 70 corridor. So it's got a lot of heat stress, it's got a lot of drought stress tolerance. If you walk out in this plot and compare it to any one of the numbers out there, this product looks as good as anything in the plot. So sometimes when we have those more northern varieties or the earlier maturity varieties, they have a tendency to want to hang to the north further only. This product is unique in the fact that it has the ability to move south pretty decent. So I really like this product in its diversity. It has the ability to flex ears. We have, we're sitting in front of the 34,000 plant population here. We have it at 30, we have it at 28 to see the different flex potentials with it. I really like how it even looks at the 28.
Yep.
There are a lot of 18s around. There's a few 20s around in this plot, a few 16s, but it looks like it's primarily sitting at that 18 around, anywhere from 38 to 45 long. If we get one more shot of rain, if we fill on this corn should easily be in that 230, 240 yield potential, and we're not sitting on phenomenal dirt for that. So we've caught the right rains. It didn't have any stress going through. It's got good fertility to it. It's got, I don't know, probably 240, 250 pounds of nitrogen applied to it. So that's not going to be a limiting factor here. It's got a 250 bushel potash and phosphorus removal rating. So I think that's probably where we were seeing. We never really saw a potash deficiency show up when it got really hot and dry. So we're doing everything right in this plot behind us. And it's going to be a great product for the stressy ground. It's going to be a great product for the highly productive ground. You can push the population up, you can pull the population back. Extremely healthy, no tar spot in it as up to this point. So we're really, really excited. This is going to be a product that we're going to have in great supply for next year. So it's all good things as far as I'm concerned.
No, I think you nailed it there. I think the two things that really stood out to me is the height gives us the protection to put on that stressier acre so we don't get a lot of shrink. When we talk about some of the evolution in the corn industry, we're getting a little bit shorter, but at the same token, on some of these drought acres, we need just a little bit more plant height to be able to cover the rows, make sure we're getting all the sunlight that we can get down to that lower population, so that way we can build bigger solar panels. And this product gives us that. And then from the offensive standpoint, the rows around definitely gives us that ability to go to flex up and rows around to 20, and then also to flex in a length standpoint as well.
Correct. Great east to west movement on it as well. So it's not something we got to keep out of Nebraska. It's got phenomenal standability and green snap, and it's got the yield potential to move east into the heavy hitting areas as well. So Lynn, Joe is not with us. Do you have the corny joke of the week?
Yeah. So first I want to take a minute just to let our viewers know, seed guides are out in the countryside right now. ASMs, as we mentioned, we're here this week, so they picked up boxes. Talk to your local Merschman Seeds ASM if you're interested in a product guide, and also we'll be doing our seed guide blitz in the mail. So look for those mailers to come out to look at what we have to offer for the 2024 season, and look at what we've brought to the lineup and new products, and some of the existing products that seem to be getting better as we've moved through the testing data and keep them in the lineup. What kind of jacket makes you hot?
No idea.
A blazer.
And that is appropriate for for today. We're sitting in some nice 95-degree weather. Well, I appreciate everybody's time this week. I hope one of you guys or some of our listeners are going to catch a nice little rainfall. There's some chances in the forecast, so I hope all of our customers are catching nice rainfall, and we'll catch you next week.